Hi there. Did you ever feel misunderstood? You know how it is when someone sees you, they speak to you for 5 minutes, and because you have a certain accent or you're dressed a certain way or there's something about you, so they think they understand why you said what you said. And you say, "What are you talking about? That's not what I intended at all." But they know that that is what you meant. That is what you said, right? So they're absolutely sure about that. And the reason why they're so sure about it is because who knows when they once had an experience with someone with the same type of an accent or someone who looks similar to you, and therefore they have this stigma that they stick on anyone that dresses that way or that sounds that way, and they just know unless they're proven absolutely otherwise. And it's very offensive. It's very hurtful. And I would suppose, if I were to get a little bit personal with you, that there were people that you misunderstood, that you were sure you understood, that this is the reason, this was their motive, etc., until you found out otherwise. Guess what? The most misunderstood entity that exists of all time is God. Most misunderstood, without even a question. We are raised as children. We're given some childlike notion of what God is because adults are trying to help us understand this concept of God, which whether someone does or doesn't believe in, it needs to be discussed at some point. And so we have this conversation. And then we grow up as adults and we go to high school, we go to college, we get an education in medicine, in law, in whatever vocation it is that we have. We don't spend more than 25 seconds learning anything about God, which is the most complex entity in the universe. And we have this, we're running through life with a notion which comes from childhood. So God is deeply, deeply misunderstood. You know how they say the story about the lawyer who goes into court and he asks the defendant, "So when did you stop beating your wife?" Right? And they use this as an example of him planting in the minds of the jury that the defendant beats his wife. That's a fact. The question is when he stopped. Right? And the fact of the matter is, let's just, we're talking about a fictitious story. Let's just understand that, assume in our story that the guy never beat his wife. Right? But when we ask questions that are based on assumptions which are wrong, we have to go back to the assumptions. We have to go back to our understanding of what God is before we start saying, well, then how can God, or why would God, etc. Whoa. Let's first understand what God is. And this is the reason why, some people will say, I don't believe in God. I believe in a primal being. What they're really saying, which is profound, is I don't believe in the definition of God that was given to me as a child. I believe in something else called a primal being. And as far as I'm concerned, we can call this entity whatever we want to call it. It's not about the name. It's about us talking about the same thing. So sometimes what one person calls God is the other person's definition of a primal being, of the original source, or whatever it may be. Now, all of this, what I just started discussing with you, is just a tidbit, a sneak peek into lesson 1 of Wrestling with Faith, which we begin on October 15th, 2018. And I know that everyone, because I'm preparing the course, I'm gaining from the information. And I've studied about God quite a lot. And I'm gaining from it. I know everyone's going to gain significantly from it. And you'll have 9 hours under your belt. It's a 6-week course, 90 minutes a class. So you'll have 9 hours under your belt of having studied about God and faith. It changes everything. You're going to be like this super advanced person, expert on God, because most people only spent about 25 seconds studying about God. We know that as a fact, right? Because I said it before, similar to the lawyer story. Anyway, join us. What are you waiting for? Sign up right now. I want to make sure we have a seat for you. This is going to be one of our biggest courses ever, and I hope to see you there October 15th, 7:30 p.m., Glacier Jewish Center, 25 North State Street, Newtown, Pennsylvania. See you.